Alright, take two. The topic about the video is gonna be on, you guessed it, Halfbeat.
Of course. We both guessed it, me and Wilhelm.
Hell yeah. The topic of today's video is Halfbeat. And
Amazing.
The game was so much fun when no one played Halfbeat, and now everyone plays Halfbeat, and it's fucked. Yeah.
where do I even begin? On Friday, the 27th of February, 2015, Viruz uploaded a video on YouTube called Let's Do It Halfbeat New CJ Tech by 3XP Viruz. He showcased a technique used on old games like Quake Champions and Wolfenstein and proved that it's possible to use this technique in CodJumper. Most people didn't think anything of the tech at the time. Everyone, including Viruz, would continue their everyday lives. Unbeknownst to him, that day, Viruz revealed the most controversial technique in CodJumper's future. This is the story of Halfbeat. So basically, this Sunday, June 4th, 2023, the new montage by Siren released, and it was amazing. It was absolutely epic. It is called Endgame. If you haven't seen it for whatever reason, go watch it, obviously. Link will be in the description. But the thing is, when you watch the montage, a good chunk of the montage, close to half of it, is done with Halfbeat. And that is because Halfbeat is actually stronger than fullbeat. And it's pretty clear that it's stronger than fullbeat because any jumps that eventually the players did manage to land fullbeat were accepted and shown in the video. But the thing is, when we see the Halfbeat jumps, if somebody tries any of the Halfbeat jumps shown in the video with fullbeat, it will be 10 times harder or even impossible to perform. So how exactly did we get here? How did Halfbeat even start being used by people? Well, in order to find out, we need to go all the way back to 2015. When Viruz first posted the video about Halfbeat, people didn't really care about it. Viruz explained the main advantage that Halfbeat had over fullbeat. The smaller straight switches allow you to hit the angles faster and more accurate, which in theory provides way better consistency and possible speed. It sounds pretty alluring, and it makes sense, especially now that we know how to use the tech. But back then, nobody had any kind of results. Therefore, nobody really thought the tech was some kind of new meta that people would strictly start using from now on. Everyone just wrote it off, they tried it a bit, they saw that yeah, it could work, it was a bit awkward to adjust to holding just A or holding just D when you're strafing, but nobody really had any kind of breakthrough. The people at the time that stuck with using the tech didn't really become any better than they already were, and they didn't really play any worse than they already were. They just kept being themselves, essentially. But a few more people decided to keep on grinding with the tech, and one of the people was actually very known at the time, and one of the top players on top of that. His name was Kazi, and he had believed about the potential the tech could have, but couldn't really show it just yet.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much when Viruz released the video about showcasing how Halfbeat works, and then it was a meme technique, so I actually had a Dark Free walkthrough which was only Halfbeat back then in like 2018 or something. I was using it as a meme, but we didn't know its potential that time. So it was basically a meme technique.
And honestly, watching at this walkthrough, it's very clear to see how much worse the community was overall at using and understanding the technique. because people didn't really have any tools to actually teach them how every angle of the technique works, so it was really hard to figure this out all by trial and error. So this becomes really evident, especially if you see Skazi using Halfbeat on the last bounce on this walkthrough, because right now that we know how Halfbeat works, we can see that it's really difficult for him to hit any of the angles on the last bounce, and he barely lands, even though the last bounce isn't that big of a threat.
When Fortnite was a huge game, let's call it that, obviously I didn't play as much CodFort as I used to. Then I had a 1 or 2 year long break. Then I came back to, so it was 2018 when I was still playing. Then I had a break. I went to uni, I started playing Fortnite and stuff with my friends. Then I came back to CJ one day and I couldn't fullbeat at all. And I was, okay, I'm gonna use Halfbeat then, and it stuck with me. So it was like in 2020 June-ish when I came back to CJ and started using Halfbeat because I couldn't get the hang of fullbeat. But it wasn't really hard to adjust back because I was a fullbeat player back then. Even now, I'm like a hybrid type of player. Obviously, I prefer Halfbeat because it doesn't kill my hands like fullbeat does. Like, obviously, I'm not going to be as good with fullbeat as I am with Halfbeat now, or let's say my peak skill in like 2022 at the end of the 2022. But yeah, it's not hard for me to adjust back.
The thing that helped Skazi a lot compared to other players that would try the tech out was the fact that he could switch between Halfbeat and fullbeat seamlessly. While every other player needed around an hour to get used to using one tech or the other, Skazi could simply swap whenever he wanted. And yet he was not as good on Halfbeat as he was on fullbeat just yet. And pretty much every other player had it off worse, so was trying even worth it? Well, the main motive for Skazi to learn the tech and use it to his full potential was the fact that fullbeat would cause a lot of pain in his hands after lengthy playthroughs. By the time he left the game though, he still wasn't as good with Halfbeat as he was with fullbeat, and there was no reason for him to do a complete switch to one tech over the other. But eventually, he got bored, and he took a pretty big break from the game. But just because Skazi was one of the first to use Halfbeat and to try to master it, it doesn't mean he was the only one. Besides Skazi, there was one more person that had also been using Halfbeat to great effect. This was not a very known player at the time, and he rose up to popularity through montages mainly because he would perform insane jumps with the tech. His name was Viruz, and he would influence a lot of people to start using the tech. Unlike everyone else, Viruz' introduction to Halfbeat was very different. He knew about it from CodJumping videos way before he came back to CJ in 2018, after a whole 8 years of being completely inactive from the game. It took him a while to realize that the CodJumper engine is actually based on the ID Tech engine used in Quake. While he hadn't played CodJumping before, he really liked watching Quake montages. He didn't start working with the tech immediately. He started playing fullbeat for around a year and then took on the challenge of learning Halfbeat. It took him about a month to fully adjust, but it wasn't like the type of person that would use Halfbeat everywhere instantly, because when he first tried it, he had a very hard time getting used to it, so he used it only for very specific techs. The very first time, in fact, he said his brain refused to release the W key, and it took about a week to get used to actually completely releasing the W key. But when Viruz got the hang of using the tech, it was truly an amazing moment. He would land some bounces that would actually compete with what we had at the time for the top level of fullbeat. And it was something unprecedented for Halfbeat, as the only Halfbeat jumps we've seen in montages so far were the ones used by Viruz, the person who kinda pioneered the use of the tech. And they weren't that great, in fact. They were simple, normal, everyday montage jumps, and right now it wouldn't probably take that long for us to land them. But Viruz' one? They were a bit different. They were actually pretty decently high level jumps. And Viruz was the first person to actually start using the tech to great effect. This montage was called Drift by Moji, and it was released in June of 2020. Many people were impressed by the halfbeat strafes from Vargas and his clips, and even Viruz commented on the video about how he loved the fact that Vargas was using the halfbeat, as he quoted, lifestyle. And I think he wanted, when he released the video to the public in 2015, to see at least one person perform a halfbeat jump on a montage. Parenthesis, there was one strobe guy in the montage that also did halfbeat, but I have no idea who that guy is and nobody knows of him anyway, so he's not that important, you know. All this was thanks to an insane tool that is used on the Jumper 7 servers called Angle Helper, which does, as it suggests, help you realize where the actual angle that you need to look at is. And this helped Vargas and some other jumpers proceed with learning halfbeat much quicker than they were supposed to. It was around this time that Skazi would finally come back to the game after 2 years of a break, and he quickly realized that he couldn't really adjust to the game movements anymore and fullbeat and play the game normally. So therefore he decided that halfbeat would be the way to go and started grinding with only halfbeat immediately. And a few months later, in April of 2021, Skazi would do the unthinkable and finish one of the most challenging maps in the game only using halfbeat, MP Dark Final. A lot of people got influenced by this and started using the tech as well. One of these people had been a very old player returning to the game after an almost 10-year break, and he went by the name of Wilhelm II.
Well, it was at the end of my botting phase. I saw Skadzi using it on Dark Final of the 19th, and I was like, hey, that looks easy. And so I did it. I didn't actually expect to do it, but I ended up doing it. After that, I started grinding H2. Did the first bounce, thought I was actually pretty good. But like 4 months after that, I realized that the technique is really easy and that I was still really fucking bad. It really Straub made me realize that because he was actually pretty good at it.
So, did you also start using it the moment you found out about it with Skazi on Dark Final?
Yeah, pretty much. I started using it at that point. I started the H2 run with Halfbeat too, not shortly after that.
And how long did it actually take you to fully adjust to start using the tech instead of playing normally?
Like 20 minutes. The once I first tried it on really, Dark Final 19th, it's just so absurdly broken with the technique, even more so than other bounces, except like really long distances, that after like 5 minutes of trying, I was getting close, even though at that point in time, with fullbeat, I had basically no chance of doing it for like another half a year.
Just wow. Wilhelm was on the opposing end of the spectrum when it came to learning halfbeat. It was absolutely astonishing to think that a person could struggle and learn the tech within months, but he could also learn the tech within minutes. It was absolutely insane to think about, and also quite funny in my opinion. A lot of people don't know who Wilhelm actually is. Wilhelm actually dates back to 2011. He used to go by the name of Hellkiller22 and would mostly play hardways. The hardest map he had completed before eventually quitting the game was MP Dark V3, which was a really strong achievement back then. In 2020, Wilhelm returned to the game in the form of botting. He created his own tools and started using it to complete maps and do insane jumps normal jits. Later on, he got bored and started playing normally again. All the extra practice helped him get back to speed really quickly, and he would rapidly become as good as he used to be back in the day. Eventually, influenced by Skazi, he started using Halfbeat.
After playing Halfbeat, you can increase your fullbeat skill. For example, if Sard started using Halfbeat now, he would actually improve at the game playing fullbeat too. But after a point in time, it will just completely gimp you, and you will not be able to play fullbeat at all. You get adjusted to Halfbeat, you reach a certain skill level, and when you try going back to fullbeat, after an extended period of time, you just die at the game and you become dog shit. That's what happened with me really. So when I realized that Halfbeat was really easy and started readjusting to fullbeat, it took me like 3 months to learn Parastrafe. I even bugged Straub a lot to come and teach me, because it was just so much harder with fullbeat.
During 2021, the player Sepp would play a lot with Wilhelm and they would both improve together. Sepp would also use Halfbeat for the most part, just like Wilhelm, but Sepp didn't find out about the tech the way others did. When Sepp found out about the tech and started using it, he wasn't anywhere close to completing hardways, unlike the other players.
Probably around like 2021, I was still playing on an H, and surprisingly, first person I've seen playing Halfbeat was Bode. He was playing on an H back then, and yeah, he showed me how to use Halfbeat. I liked it at first because it helped me a bit to land harder jumps. I was using Halfbeat for my off-the-ground jumps, but never after bounds. I used Halfbeat like that for like half a year at least, until I figured how to do proper strafes.
So, when did you start to use Halfbeat to like its full extent?
Probably when I started trying out harder maps, like Restyle 3, because I couldn't manage to land few jumps from there without Halfbeat. Keep in mind that I didn't understand how to play the game at all, so it took quite a bit.
Sepp became good at the game very quickly. It was a combined effort of a lot of people being there to explain him a lot of crucial mechanics about the game. Halfbeat was only there to make things a bit easier to execute.
For the starter strafes, my start strafes back then were really bad, and with Halfbeat I could easily reach anything. So that's how I landed Sierra Lust no RPG first time, and I couldn't land it full beat at all. Not no RPG, I couldn't land like RPG back then. And yeah, I landed Sierra Lust for the first time, no RPG.
For Sepp's case especially, it was pretty clear that Halfbeat would offer much greater power than fullbeat. Despite his skill level not being quite up there at the time, he was able to do some really hard jumps. Nowadays, this is quite a common thought amongst fullbeat players. Someone who starts playing Halfbeat could very rapidly become insane at the game without having the game knowledge to back it up. And it's all because of how strong Halfbeat is. But is this actually true?
Yes, it can boost your skill, but I don't think it's because game knowledge becomes less important. It's exactly because it's game knowledge only at that point. Not exactly because fullbeat still requires more game knowledge. However, halfbeat just completely skips the mechanics part of the game. It's like playing Garen or Annie in League of Legends.
Yes, exactly. Don't get mad at me. I'm not against anyone. You can play any way you want, like I do, because I play Halfbeat as well, because I prefer this way, because it's easier, it's more comfortable for my hands and stuff. But we can't argue with the fact that it boosts people up a lot, especially when it comes to distances. Like, you can see that some people, like, when it comes to, let's say, Beamed plus Root, Edge 2, Dark Final, people struggle tremendously. But when it comes to distance-based maps, such as Void 2, Advanced Way, they clap it. Like, there comes out the advantages of Halfbeat compared to Fullbeat.
When you use Halfbeat, you don't use game mechanics at all. Like, you don't need to think about it. So all you have to do is just curve properly, and you will land like harder jumps. When with Fullbeat, you need to actually think about mechanics, and yeah, it makes it significantly easier to play Halfbeat. And yeah, I think that Halfbeat makes below average player like an advanced player for no reason.
I think this is one of the biggest reasons why people hate Halfbeat in general. It is absolutely true that playing Halfbeat while being an inter player can boost your skill a lot and can make you learn faster, perform way better than you're supposed to. It basically uncaps your skill cap until a point. And a lot of people find it unfair. And pretty much everyone that I interviewed answered the same thing. Yes, it does boost someone's skill. Yes, it does allow someone to learn a lot faster because it requires less mouse movement, less physical effort. It allows you to play the game for a longer period of time before actually getting tired. Halfbeat is so good for learning the game and nobody can deny that. A lot of people think this is problematic. For leaderboards it might be, but for the game itself, I completely disagree. But at some point, we had a big issue regarding this exact thing. Meet Adi, or ADI, a player from Croatia that would find out about Halfbeat before even starting CodJumper in 2021. Within 2 months of playing CodJumper, he went from playing only interways to dunking insane distance bounces on hardway. With the recent rise of botting on the CodJumper scene, needless to say, some people became suspicious. This was for 2 main reasons. Adi's consistency when performing bounces was absolutely insane, and he was consistent on a tech that only one person was able to do at the time: double para strafing. During early 2021, Skazi would use double para strafing in order to do some insane jumps for least RPG runs. The tech was considered really hard, and only Skazi was able to do it. Everyone else that tried would just lose speed. Not only Adi was performing double power strafe correctly, he also did it consistently. Almost every attempt he could hit it, and this was a big red flag on Skazi's eyes. Skazi proceeded to accuse him of using a recorder, a tool that would allow you to record a movement and repeat it whenever you want. This became so serious that at some point 40 people gathered on a single server to try and figure out if ADI was cheating. 2 hours later, he got blacklisted and was not allowed to post any runs on the 3xp server anymore. Adi became so good, so quick, that people thought that kind of progression was impossible. Looking back at it now, we were very naive on our decisions. Thankfully, 1 year later in 2022, the ban was lifted. Adi could once again post times and he was considered 100% legit. He has a YouTube channel now where he posts his runs, and he is still a super consistent jumper. Nowadays, Adi plays fullbeat mostly and he has become immensely better compared to when he got blacklisted. And he also thinks that Halfbeat is a broken tech like everyone else playing fullbeat. Even though Halfbeat is broken, there are reasons why it is so much better right now. You see, Wilhelm was 100% right when he said that Halfbeat gives you game knowledge and removes the mechanics of the game completely. Swaggy, a Halfbeat only player, clearly doesn't know much about the game. He is aware of this himself, yet he can still perform insanely hard jumps for least RPG runs. How can that be possible if your tech and game knowledge is the most important thing to performing jumps? Demos. In January of 2021, 3xp got a big update with some insane features added, like in-game walkthroughs, automatically recorded speedruns for playback in-game, and most importantly, the new 3xp demo system. Basically, the server allowed for built-in in-game shadowplay that anyone could use without the need for a good computer. These demos would then be available for playback in order for any player to see the other person's tech and movement. If we spectate Swaggy, we will see that he takes a very long time analyzing the demo of the jump he's in, step by step. The demo system is what provides Swaggy with the knowledge to land a jump, and Halfbeat makes the process of replicating the demo's movement much easier. And since CodJumper is a deterministic game, copying someone else's inputs will yield the exact same results.
I don't want to get personal about it. But, I mean, yes, Swaggy is that kind of guy that I don't think he understands how the game works at all, and he got carried a bit to the level he is right now, and yeah, Halfbeat's a big part of it.
He can play decently well fullbeat, like he can do some hard ways fullbeat, yes, but for example, when he runs low RPGs, he pretty much only plays Halfbeat. And it's just really not good to see that a low hard player can just dunk on low RPG runs because of a broken tech. Because let's say someone grinds a low RPG with fullbeat that is so hard, and someone just minus ones because holding D and not moving your mouse is inherently better. So yeah, I'd say he does fall into the category, but he's definitely not the worst example of it.
Yes, he does,
Yeah.
and a lot of other people beside him. Like I'm not trying to point fingers, but there are a lot of people like him.
All of this explains why players are rapidly getting better, and how more and more people are able to do hard ways out of nowhere. Halfbeat is not the only thing to blame, but it is a big factor when talking about this. And if that wasn't enough, Halfbeat is better than Fullbeat in general. As mentioned in the start of the video, all of the Halfbeat jumps in Siren's montage are either much harder or straight up impossible when performed with Fullbeat. Just how big is this difference exactly?
It's situational. If it comes to distances, yeah, it matters a lot because Halfbeat has more potential. Like you can extend your strafes so much more, but only for the reason that it's more consistent to do. For sure, Halfbeat is easier to do than Fullbeat if it's a distance. But when it's like a regular bounce, which needs like a WAWD switch and it's just a height, it doesn't really matter. In case it's not far away, because Halfbeat has more advantage when it comes to traveling huge distances midair, and strafe changes obviously after the bounce, because you can perform them so much quicker and more consistently than Fullbeat.
Even if Halfbeat doesn't help much when it comes to height bounces, it is still far stronger than playing Fullbeat. The tech is so good that the choice for the hardest map isn't definitive right now. The current two hardest maps, Void V2 and Edge V2, should be about the same difficulty, but that is not entirely true anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider Halfbeat when you like measure difficulty of the map, unless it's like made for Halfbeat, like a few challenge ways we've done. Only one, I think, is released right now, but there will be more. And yeah, so it's funny because when we released like the Halfbeat challenge way, literally no one played it, I think. I don't know why. I guess it's too hard or something. But yeah, I mean, any map that was tested full beat, you can't really measure difficulty with Halfbeat.
Okay. By the way, the thing you said, you think the map became too hard when tested with Halfbeat. I don't think that's necessarily true, even if I haven't tried the map itself. Joe Panozo is a player who probably doesn't understand the game very well, and he can land bounces on the Halfbeat challenge way of Emperor Marble V2. So I don't think difficulty is the issue. I think it just scares people away because it's named Halfbeat Challenge Way. And then the idea of, oh, the map is not even possible with Fullbeat kind of scares people away because they think it's hard as fuck when it's pretty doable if you're any decent at attack.
Well,
seemingly.
the Marble 2 challenge, Halfbeat challenge, I think Wilhelm says that Fullbeat challenge way is harder. So I don't know why no one plays it, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't want to play Halfbeat right now. Like, when I came back, I don't enjoy Halfbeat. It's not fun for me, so I don't play Halfbeat at all.
Well, in my opinion, if you use Fullbeat only, H2 and Void 2 are definitely about the same difficulty, except that H2 has those two retarded bounces, 45th and 47th, which are just harder than anything on Void 2. But if you take out the outliers, you don't count 45th and 47th, the difficulty is about the same, yes. However, if you use Fullbeat, H2 becomes lighter about the SN2 difficulty, in my opinion. No, Void 2 becomes the SN2 difficulty, yes. And H2, well, the distances did become the SN2 difficulty, but H2 is not hard because of the distances, it's because all the tech bounces.
There is a map in production, let's call it that, which is Fullbeat based. It's tested on Fullbeat, and it's already a lot harder than any other map combined out there. It doesn't matter if you use Halfbeat or Fullbeat on most jumps, obviously, because if it's a distance, you can just grab it with Halfbeat. But there are some jumps that it doesn't matter what you do, it's ridiculously hard. But when it comes to like H2 or Void 2, it's a lot simpler doing it Halfbeat, obviously. So, I mean, to be fair, if a map is designed to be entirely Halfbeat, then it should be rated using Halfbeat. But let's say H2 was made by literally Sard, he was the main person testing it, and it was tested with Fullbeat. So it only really can be compared with Fullbeat completions, same as with Void 2. I think it was also tested with Fullbeat. So yeah, it's not that simple to judge. Okay, yeah, it's simple, but you should also consider the fact how the map was made. Like if it was half-beat tested or full-beat tested. If you are completing the route, which was made with using full-beat, obviously it's going to be a lot easier. But if it was optimized with half-beat, then it's already challenging. So half-beat intended route completed with half-beat is kind of the equivalent of full-beat tested map and full-beat completion.
Halfbeat is so strong that people judge it similarly to hacks when it comes to completing maps. If the map itself was not tested with Halfbeat and you completed it with Halfbeat, it is almost as if you cheated your way into finishing it for a lot of the pros. And this comes from pros like Skazi and Vargas who prefer playing Halfbeat and use the tech daily. Halfbeat is so superior and it's for many reasons. The consistency it provides compared to fullbeat can be built much quicker. There are special halfbeat only techniques that haven't been done efficiently with fullbeat yet because of how hard they are. These include the fast 2-3-2 switches after bounce and the double parastrafe. It is not fair even comparing halfbeat to fullbeat. The grounds are just not even, and the same thing goes for map completions. But what about the hate? Why do so many players hate Halfbeat so much?
I prefer not using Halfbeat, honestly. Like, I don't know. I think I use Halfbeat only when I want to chill, or like when it's extremely hard jump that I know that I won't be able to do full beat, or like it would take me ages. So other times I prefer playing full beat.
I never truly prefer it, because the technique is really boring, makes the game way too easy. But if you ask when the technique is better, the answer is pretty much always, every single time, no exceptions. Very few exceptions, really. Some extremely weird tech bounces, but in every other case where you switch more than like 3 times, it's just objectively better.
The top players that either use fullbeat only or can play with both techs dislike Halfbeat so much because they believe it sucks the fun out of the game. Halfbeat is very tryhard inducing, and it feels very unfair to be slower than someone worse than you just because you play fullbeat and they play halfbeat. There is no comparison, and the run that uses fullbeat requires so much more effort to be as fast as the halfbeat run. And the fact that someone can get to do super hard bounces in just 2 months of playing the game seemed unfair to someone who needed to play the game for years and study every tech inside out. One of the worst feelings I have experienced when I was doing a jump I found really hard. There was a person spectating me that I know only plays bottom tier hardways. That person then teleported to my location, tried the bounce with halfbeat, and did it in a few tries, and accordingly typed easy in the chat. Not only was it obviously frustrating, but it was also super demotivating. I said to myself, why have I wasted all these years trying to master this shit tech when I can become a god within 2 months of playing Halfbeat? Something needs to be done about this. RayXP is easily the most popular server in the game currently, with hundreds of runs submitted every single week to the leaderboards. When sitting in spectator on the server, you will quickly realize that close to 40% of the players are currently using Halfbeat. And since you cannot outright nerf Halfbeat in a way, you can only do one thing: make the grounds even. Do you think Halfbeat should have its own separate leaderboard, and why?
Definitely 100%. If you are a main fullbeat player and you see halfbeat players literally wrecking your records, it's demotivating. So halfbeat and fullbeat needs to have its separate leaderboard. Not because people should be separated. I mean, yeah, people should be separated this way because we don't want the other players to be demotivated. Because we want to keep players to be still players, like they should still play if they enjoy the game. And also fullbeat is only comparable with fullbeat. Let's add that also. And halfbeat is also comparable with halfbeat. But one against the other one, nah. That's not fair.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would like delete all existing Halfbeat runs as well. Yeah, fullbeat leaderboard should be separated from Halfbeat. That's 100%. First of all, there are people that like only play fullbeat, and that's just unfair to them because inter players that use Halfbeat shouldn't be like faster than fullbeat players. That's just fucked.
Of course, it should have its own leaderboard, really. I mean, if I follow my heart, really, I just want it to be gone completely, but the best option we have now is really a separate leaderboard. Because, well, first, maps are balanced around fullbeat. So just like with hacks, that hacks FPS, it does have its separate category. Halfbeat should have its own separate category as well. And a lot of older players too can only play fullbeat and don't want to learn Halfbeat at all. For example, Sard. And yeah, the game would just really become more fun for them. And for me too, because Halfbeat is just inherently easier, and that makes it inherently less fun in my opinion.
Halfbeat and fullbeat should not be comparable, and therefore leaderboards should get a new category. This is obviously for every server, but I know 3xp specifically sees much more popularity, and there is a lot of people using Halfbeat even an easy way to complete maps, deciding early on what tech they want to learn and how they want to play the game. How would you achieve such a restriction on the leaderboard itself? Recently, a map came out called MP Marble V2, and it came with two challenge ways, a fullbeat challenge and a halfbeat challenge. The halfbeat challenge was only tested with halfbeat and is generally much harder, but at the same time it makes sense. Trying the bounces fullbeat, you can immediately see that the lands feel way out of reach and there is truly no hope. Fullbeat challenge way, on the other hand, is a way with insane bounces tested for fullbeat only, and it has a clever restriction. You see, whenever you try to halfbeat inside the fullbeat challenge way, you will get massive slowdowns, causing your speed to never really accelerate. This makes halfbeat completely useless on the fullbeat challenge way, and the script only appears when you're playing within the area of that way. Something similar could be done with the leaderboards. With a similar command to hacks, a player would be able to type .halfbeat or .hb and then toggle if they want to use halfbeat in their runs or not. Some players suggested a coin's drawback of -50% for using halfbeat on the run, as it takes half the effort to finish.
The experimental marble to fullbeat wave, I'd say went really well. People who can play FB reasonably well have completed it. And we don't see halfbeaters just destroying the leaderboard, not this time.
The fullbeat restricted leaderboards will be a huge step to improving the game in general. It's something that is 100% needed in CodJumper, and something that needs way more attention to it so it can be introduced faster into the game. With the leaderboards in place, players could compete however they wanted, and it would be fair for everyone. It first happened with hacks, then it happened with elevators. I think that now is about time that it happens with Halfbeat as well. 2 different polls have been made on the 3xp Discord, and Noob is clearly up for the idea. So with help from the community, something like this could be tested and added in the near future. But seeing how much hate some people have gathered for the technique, I thought of a different, a bit more controversial solution to this problem. So what if there was a chance to remove Halfbeat completely from the game with a patch to Code 4X, where all servers would have to update to being Code 4X servers to balance the game out and update to the latest patch, of course? Would you vouch for the removal of Halfbeat from the game outright? And if yes, then why?
Absolutely. I mean, sure, it would have its drawbacks, and it might even just kill the game, but honestly, I think the chance to remove Halfbeat isn't completely worth it. The game would just become what it was like pre-2019, pre-2020. It would be so nice.
Yeah, for sure, I would. I think, like, the game was so much fun when no one played Halfbeat, and now everyone plays Halfbeat, and it's fucked. Yeah, like if it was removed, it would be healthy for the game. I think a lot more people would enjoy actually playing it. Like, I'm pretty sure Wilhelm said he could do that at some point, but I'm not sure if that's happening.
What if it just never happened? Would the game be in a better state than it is now? What would current jumpers even look like? Would Skazi never return to the game? Maps like Void V2 and Marble V2 never release? Would we not see another big montage after some bounces stand ever again? So exciting. So many bounces to land still. Maybe boating would be a bit more popular. Maybe we would believe that we have done everything. No. No, that can't be right. None of this is right. What would the game look like without Halfbeat ever existing? Maybe Strobe and some other players would never quit. But then again, maybe everyone would quit. Maybe everything that was thought to be possible would have been landed, and the game would have just died. Maybe I would have stopped playing. Maybe I would never even do the documentary about botting. Maybe botting would not even happen in Code 4. That doesn't sound right either. Something else would probably arise to push the limits further. But we would have found this regardless of Halfbeat, so how can that be true? Maybe backwards RPG was the meta. Maybe someone would finally land Sunset 7th legit. And yet again, there is a chance Aztec would never be discovered, and in turn, On the Sky would be impossible too. With no Halfbeat, what would happen to the game? What would the game become with no Halfbeat? I was mind blown. I fully expected Wilhelm to answer yes to this question. I know that he hates the existence of the tech so much that it would be an easy yes from him. But from Sepp, I didn't know what to expect, and I was very surprised when I heard him say yes so confidently. The explanations themselves and the predictions of where the game would go were also completely different. Sepp said that the game would be saved and that more people would start playing again, while Wilhelm said the game would probably die off, but he would easily trade that for Halfbeat to be gone completely. To understand their perspective, we need to talk about straight switch downtime. The amount of speed you're not gaining every switch is based on how fast your switch is and what FPS you're using. On average, a full beat straight switch will be around 100 milliseconds, which would result in a loss of exactly 25 speed on 250 FPS for every single straight switch. But on Halfbeat, the downtime for my switches was around 50 milliseconds, which would result on 12.5 speed loss per switch on 250 FPS. And this would snowball to a huge difference by the end. Other more experienced Halfbeat players have been seen to be able to have switches of around 20 milliseconds. With a switch like this, players would be able to gain an extra 20 speed per switch than a full beat player. It makes perfect sense why full beat players want the tech outright removed, as there is no way a comparison like that is fair when comparing Halfbeat and full beat gameplay. Now, rest assured, Halfbeat is not going anywhere, and it's for a good reason. I am not someone who likes Halfbeat or someone who plays Halfbeat, but I know that if it was never invented back in 2015, the game would look very different in the current time. People would not be as good as they currently are in the game, and a lot of the jumps we saw in Siren's montage would have never been landed. Around 1 year ago, I myself tried to learn Halfbeat from the ground up, and in doing so, I never really got that great with it. Throughout the video, you have seen some random runs of me playing with Halfbeat, and you can clearly tell that I'm struggling. But even with the small amount of time I gave it, Halfbeat made me realize crucial mistakes I was doing with my 250s that could cost me massive amounts of speed. Needless to say, that with 3 days of Halfbeat practice, I became a much better fullbeat player, and I think this cannot be undermined when talking about the tech. Siren's montage as well has some jumps that are probably not even possible with fullbeat, and there were even some jumps that were only done by bots up until the release of the Taj. It would take us many more years to reach the level of CodJumper we are now. The peak skill of the players in present time are higher than ever, and Halfbeat has played its role into helping every player get better at the game. Yes, Halfbeat is broken. Yes, Halfbeat makes someone way better at the game than the level they are actually, but with the right moderation, everyone should be allowed to play and enjoy the game the way they want. It is absolutely crazy to think that this would probably never happen if Viruz never posted the video in 2015. And going back to the video today, we can see how much of a meme it was. Nobody back in 2015 could ever foresee what Halfbeat would become to CodJumper. That so many people would eventually hate the tech for being so OP and would even vouch for its removal 8 years later. It literally went from 0 to hero. If you're a hardware player right now, and you feel like you're stuck and that you cannot progress, I would suggest trying Halfbeat for a few hours. It will help you understand a lot of mistakes you might be doing, and it will allow you to improve at fullbeat so long you don't stick with Halfbeat. If on the other hand you're a Halfbeat player, I would suggest you giving fullbeat a try, as I truly think fullbeat gives you the best idea on where you can lose massive amounts of speed, especially when it comes to smaller bounces. Both techs have their own role when it comes to playing the game, and how you choose to play CodJumper should be purely up to you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like. It helps you learn the game even if you play only fullbeat, then Halfbeat.
Yeah. That's same as if you were playing Gavin in League of Legends.
Yeah. Dude, what? How are you and Wilhelm so synced? He said the exact fucking same thing.
Yeah, but you just ignore the mechanics and like, focus
Stop!
on
You're literally saying the same thing. How is it possible? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a sign that it's the fucking truth. I don't know.
Yeah, the other challenge way, we've spent little time testing, like the one that should come out later, but it is much harder than the Marble 2 challenge way, and that's the way I don't think many people could like actually finish.
I can see that happening, considering, you know, it's actually tested by gigachats and not trying to balance it for limp dick Halfbeat strafers. It would be, you know.
True. The game was so much fun when no one played Halfbeat, I'm sorry. When no one played Halfbeat, and now everyone plays Halfbeat, and it's...
But when it comes to like H2 or Void 2, it's a lot simpler doing it Halfbeat, obviously. So I would say, okay, I'm gonna stop here for a second because I can't fucking think. Lol.
Don't worry, as I said, we can edit this out. There is no issues whatsoever with you stopping mid-sentence.
Hi.
Hi.
I mean, to be fair, if a map is designed to be entirely hard, to be still players, like they should still play if they enjoy the game. But if they are main fullbeat players,
Yep, I agree. I agree 100%. You don't even need to finish it. I think your point is clearly made.
no, my monitor just went away and I thought I just crashed.
What the fuck? Wait, that's scary.
What?
Are you
I-
still black screen?
Oh yes. Okay, so I wasn't moving my mouse for like 15 seconds and I thought
Oh.
I just fucking.
Oh,
Oh my god.
Dude, I just bought a monitor today for my brother. I could just send you that one. It's pretty cool.
That's a blooper there, lol.
Yeah.
What?
It's
Where
true.
was I? I don't even remember.
You were explaining why, as a player, does he fall in the category we just talked about?
Okay, well, let me think. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he can play decently well full beat.